What's up, you guys? My name's Kasey, and today I want to do a video on how I went from community college to UCLA. Now, before I get into the meat and potatoes of all of this, I want to preference this video by first saying this video is mainly catering towards the California community college system and all of the universities within it in terms of the transferring opportunities and such. So if you reside in California, then this is definitely going to be the most beneficial to you. But if you don't, this can still help you out in many different ways. Mainly, we're focusing here on community college and going into a four-year university afterwards. I want to also preference this by saying that this video is not a how to get into UCLA, because I really don't like how those videos are titled, as it implies that students understand the admissions process and how the secrets to, and the know-it-alls to getting into UCLA. That's just not the case. Everybody's different. Every major is different. Everyone is just going to have a different chance. Mainly, I'm just talking about my own story here, and maybe some of the tips I share could help you out. All right, so to first start this off, we got to go back to high school. I was a pretty good student. I had about a 3.5 GPA overall when I did graduate, but I knew early on that I wanted to go to community college for one main reason, and that was a financial reason. For me, I wanted to save as much money as I could, and the idea of going to community college, where at the time, I could definitely just pay for it out of pocket. You don't have to take any student loans out because it is significantly cheaper, on top of being able to work and live at home. I just made the most financial sense. On top of that, I learned early on that you didn't have to take the SAT or ACT entrance exams to try to get into these four-year universities. If you did transfer to them, your chances were a lot higher, because their requirements to getting in terms of their GPA and prereqs that you take in high school. And what I mean by that is, in high school, you want to take 3 years of a science and a math, but you want to pass chemistry and pre-cal at my high school at least. I didn't want to take those classes, and I knew that going into community college, I didn't have to worry about that. So it made my high school path a lot easier, and in terms of community college, I still didn't have to worry about those classes. And I didn't have a major where I needed those classes. So for me, it just made the most sense. I also knew my major right away. I wanted to major in history, and that's what I've been wanting to do ever since I can remember. I wanted to use a history degree, however, to go into law. Being a lawyer and an attorney is a career path, a dream career that I've had since I was a little kid. So it's always something that I strive towards. And I already know that law school is extremely expensive. So any amount of money that I can save, I'm gonna take it. I didn't apply to any universities or anything in high school because I knew I was going to community college. And once I graduated high school, I enrolled at the community college in my town, and I went there. Now, just to preference this by saying, this isn't to say that I didn't want to go to a four-year. My dream school since I was a little kid was UC Davis, which again doesn't really correlate with my major, because UC Davis is more of a more renowned agricultural and veterinarian school, more in the science department of things, not really when it comes to the liberal arts. But it's still the campus and the atmosphere, everything about it. It was a dream school of mine since I can remember. The community college that I have is not too far from UC Davis, and they have a great relationship with one another. And they, I always felt like I had a really good chance at getting into Davis, but I still didn't think of it as realistic because that was a dream. So going to community college, my idea was, okay, let me apply to the state schools within a commuting distance for myself. So I aimed for Sacramento State University, and that was my go-to school during this whole process while I was going to community college. At this point, I never thought I could get into a UC, because you still needed to have top-tier grades, 4.0 coming out of high school, and that's at bare minimum to get into most UCs. So coming out of community college, I didn't think it was much different. Quickly though, I learned about I-Get-C for the state schools and the TAG program for the UC schools. Now, really quickly, your community college counselors in California should be telling you about the I-Get-C, and it's basically your Bible and your rule book to live by while you're at community college. It lays out the classes and prereqs that you need, and if you basically finish all of them, you will have very high chances of getting into most state schools of your choice. On top of that, one thing that they don't go into too much detail about though is, if you complete your I-Get-C and graduate with your associate's degree, and say you don't get into the state school of your choice, or any state school for that matter, the college system is still guaranteed to get you admission into one state school, not of your choice, but at least one, so you have a guarantee that you will transfer somewhere, which is a pretty cool thing to have with I-Get-C. So you want to make sure that you do that. I think with IGETC, you need one critical thinking class, a writing class, a math class, and an oral communications class. Basically COM 1, English 1 and 2, or 4, depending on the university, and usually statistics or pre-cal. So when I learned about that, I felt pretty confident, on top of looking at the GPA requirements, which are significantly lower coming out of community college if you want to transfer than coming out of high school. Then I learned about the TAG program, I want to say maybe 2 or 3 months into my first semester at community college, and I was so upset that no counselor told me about this. The TAG program stands for Transfer Admission Guarantee. Basically what it is a program that allows you to get guaranteed admission into majority of the UCs, except UCLA, UC Berkeley, UCSF, because they only have graduate and PhD programs, and I want to say UC San Diego. But UC Santa Cruz, Davis, Merced, Riverside, and Irvine are fair game. You can apply to those with transfer admission guarantee. What you have to do is basically during your second year or a year prior to the admission that you want to go into, like, so say if you want to go into fall 2020, you need to apply fall 2019. Okay, so 1 year prior to when you are considering to go into the school, you're submitting your tag, and it's basically a contract that says you're going to complete this said classes by this said date, and you're going to maintain this GPA and these grades. Depending on your major, the GPA requirement is going to be different, but overall, if you meet the GPA requirement, you're guaranteed admission. And the perk to this is you don't have to stress too much about your personal insight questions or what extracurriculars you're doing outside of community college, because if you get your tag accepted, which will be come November, you still have to submit the regular application for whatever UC you're applying to, but you won't find out until about April when regular admissions come out. But you'll know all the way back in November that you've already got your admission guarantee, and as long as you maintain what the contract says, you don't have to worry about not getting into the school at that point. So at this point, I looked at the GPA requirement that I needed, which I think was about a 3.4 for my major, something around that realm. I'm like, I can absolutely do this. I have a chance of getting into my dream school, which is UC Davis. And the other UCs, maybe I'll apply to a few, but I only wanted to apply to schools that were in my commuting distance. Then I got a little ambitious and I thought, hey, UCLA, it's almost the #1 public university in the whole country, which I think at this date in 2020 it is in most rankings, above Berkeley. I thought, wow, okay, I can apply to UCLA and Berkeley. They're a long shot, but we'll see what happens, I'll give it my best shot. So I spent the first year at community college, and I completed a majority of all my prereqs at that point, and I only needed the lower division classes, which is something I recommend to you if you're going to plan out your journey through community college accordingly in a 2-year time span. You want to try to complete as many prereqs, if not all of the prereqs, as possible prior to your application when you send it in the fall of the year prior to you going into the college if you're admitted. Because a lot of colleges, they want to see that you have your prereqs done. I don't have more details on that. That's what I've heard. That's what I did, and it may benefit you the most. So the second year was mostly the lower division courses for my major, which I think helped me in some regards. So I ended up applying to Sonoma State, Sac State, UC Davis, UC Berkeley, which are all within commuting distance for me. Some longer than others, but still reasonable to an extent, not counting traffic, because I live in the Bay Area. And then I threw one out at UCLA. That was the only school where I could possibly imagine, like, okay, if I get into this school, then it's worth moving and making all of this happen, because that is a dream that I never thought possible. When it came to my personal insight questions, I really focused on my dual culturalism and citizenship as a person. I wasn't born in this country, I was born in South America. So I focused a lot on the duality of my own culture and growing up, and how myself has been split between two different worlds in a way. And I just really delved into that. That's where I focus on my personal insight questions. For people who don't have more of a unique situation, I want to say, there is going to be something unique and special about you regardless. You really just got to look for it and, delve into it. Upon applying, I think I had a 3.7 GPA. I had pretty much all A's, obviously with a few B's in classes such as statistics, biology and poli-sci, but we're not gonna get into that. And so I sent my applications, and I was hoping, I ended up getting my tag accepted in November, so I knew that I was going to get into Davis at that point. My dream school was secured. I still applied to the state schools, however, because there's still a small chance that my tag could get revoked for any reason during the months come April, and I wanted to have backup schools just to know, like, hey, if something doesn't happen and I don't get into a UC or my tag gets denied, I still have Sonoma and SAC that I can rely on. It was just more of a cushion room for myself. It's getting hot. I would take it off. So I sent my applications. Really, the two schools that were the higher ups here were Berkeley and UCLA, because I can't tag them. They're a little bit more vigorous, admission rates are lower, and they're more prestigious historically speaking. Both of those schools, though, have a better history department in a sense compared to Davis, so I could justify looking into those. Berkeley, for me, was a school that I wasn't a fan of how the social scene sounded, but I have to see it for myself before I'm gonna believe other people, and I applied. And then LA was the top tier. Like, I doubt this is gonna happen, just because even if I did get in, I'd have to figure out a living situation and pay for housing that I wasn't planning on and everything. When I ended up applying to the schools, I heard back from the two state schools first, which was Sonoma and Sacramento. Both of them admitted me, so my confidence was already like, oh, this is great, okay? I'm basically 3 for 5 at this point. I know I've already gotten to Davis back in November, and I got my two state schools accepting me, so now I just gotta wait till April. April came, I got the official admission to Davis, so that was already reassuring enough. And then I got my rejection from Berkeley, which was really surprising. I felt like I was gonna get in, but I didn't. It was fine though. For me, this is how I looked at the schools, and Davis has the atmosphere, the social scene, the location, and the people that I know I will click with the most. Berkeley has the department for history that I want though, but when I looked more into all the schools, UCLA was a mixture of both what I wanted out of Davis and Berkeley. It was like mostly the perfect school for me, other than the fact that I can't commute to it. So with that said, I was disappointed I didn't get into Berkeley, but I wasn't like depressed or anything. And then about a week later, I got an email from UCLA, and I checked it, and I was admitted, and I could not believe it. After getting rejected from Berkeley, I'm like, there's absolutely no way I'm getting UCLA. And I couldn't believe it. I actually got it. And after a long deliberation with what to do, and during this whole Corona thing, which I can't really go to BRUINS Day or the picnic day at Davis, and I can't tour the colleges correctly, I still went to go see them for myself, but I really couldn't tour them accordingly. After doing all of that, I decided that UCLA was where I want to go. There were so many emotions and thoughts and considerations and decision making that went through what college I wanted to go to, because I got into my dream college at Davis, but I got into an even higher university in terms of a lot of different things, and it was more caterous towards my passions in history and law. It was a very hard decision to make, and I ended up going with UCLA, which I have no regrets. I am super excited, and this is a dream come true. I might just want to make a separate video about why I chose UCLA, because there was a lot that went into that, and I don't want to put it all into this video. I would just ramble on if I don't organize it accordingly in my own thought process. But yeah, UCLA is where I ended up wanting to go. That was the school that, for me, felt like I would reap the benefits of all my hard work. And I just want to say that for anybody who is thinking about going to community college, I recommend community college completely. My community college had about has about a transfer rate for all the students that go in and end up transferring. It's about below 20%. So majority of the students that go to my community college, and I'm pretty sure this goes for others, end up doing transferring. That's because people tend to get lazy, lose their path, the counselors suck, and they don't know what they want to do. So that stigma that community college is for losers, it's not true, but I can see where people get the idea that you don't work hard, because a lot of people are just there to be there, but they don't know what they're doing. But if you're committed, you already know what you want to do, you go to community college and knock out those 2 years, and you will be able to get into a top 25 university, I guarantee you, if you work hard enough. And I am happy to be a Bruin. I submitted my SIR yesterday, and I'm not sure if I want to do more videos on college-related topics and stuff. The background is going to be very different in the coming months as I move, even with this whole Corona thing. But I want to thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions about anything during this whole transfer process and such, go ahead and comment them below. I will respond. You know, a lot of the YouTube videos that I watched over the last 2 years to help me with this, it helped a lot, and commenting and them answering back helped a lot. So I just want to help anybody that, you know, has any questions, especially because the whole transfer process right now is even more complicated with this whole pandemic going on. But overall, thank you guys again for watching.